The foreign minister has had meetings with ambassadors and foreign ministers and others.
But the newspaper editor, Tuija Seidenfaden, has his own view as to why the Prime Minister didn't meet the ambassadors.
Why not meet them?
Because sadly enough, in the domestic political situation in Denmark, the logic was simple. As conflict between the biggest newspaper in the land and religious Muslims, on whose side I am? It's very simple for a prime minister to answer, I'm with the big newspaper.
And that's exactly how the Muslim leaders understood it.
You're on record as defending the paper, defending its right to publish, and your critics have said that defending them so strongly has served to further inflame the Muslim world. What's your view on that, sir?
Well, what I have done is to insist on the principle of free speech, the principle of free press, and I have made it clear that the government has no means whatsoever to interfere with a free and independent newspaper.
The Muslims felt totally rebuffed at home in Denmark, so the Imam sent a delegation to the Middle East with a dossier of pictures, not only of the published cartoons, but of others which were even more offensive. One showed a prophet with the head of a pig. Abu Laban told us he'd received these in anonymous threatening letters, but the dossier left the impression that those pictures had been printed in the newspaper.
I guess what I'm getting at, Imam, didn't you include these obscene cartoons as a way of really stirring up the pot?
We didn't give it to media. Don't forget this point.
I'm the media and I have it.
Yes.
It was the dissemination of that dossier which ignited the flames which are still burning today.
You weren't getting any attention here before you spread the word. Now you're getting attention and engagement. Do you think your mission was a success?
Yes. The whole world is engaged. I'm so positive.
And there are people dead in the streets. Do you think the casualties are worthwhile?
I feel sorry. We make cars and they make accidents. We build skyscrapers, but they collapse in an earthquake. This is life. We have maybe unexpected tragedies, and we have to live with them.
Meanwhile, Denmark was plunging into its deepest crisis, its only crisis, in more than half a century. Ever since the Second World War, the Danes have been pleased with their country, pleased with their generous welfare system, and above all, pleased with themselves. The lines between fantasy and reality aren't sharply defined around here. The elite troops guarding the royal palace look like toy soldiers. The national symbol is a bare-breasted mermaid luxuriating in Copenhagen's harbor. Those could be gingerbread houses lining Copenhagen's streets. It's the coziest of kingdoms, where even the runway models of Fashion Week, which was happening here while Danish embassies were burning, are all unmistakably Danish. The Muslim quarter of Copenhagen is 10 minutes away from all this, and on a different planet. Many Muslims say they've been made to feel like aliens. They may benefit from Denmark's welfare system, but there isn't a real mosque in the entire country. They have to make do with converted factories. There may be a shawarma joint in downtown Copenhagen, but there's no Muslim cemetery anywhere. These things deeply trouble Dr. Kamal Qureshi, the first Muslim immigrant to be elected to Denmark's parliament. He's troubled, but he's not going anywhere.
This is my country. I love my country. I hate when people burn the flag. It hurts in my stomach, in guts, to see my kids get scared when they see the Danish flag burned. For God's sake, this is the flag we have on the tables when my children have their birthdays.
Muslims make up only 2% of the population. Not much, perhaps, but enough to have spawned a backlash. Denmark now has the toughest immigration laws in Europe. And in the last 5 years, Danes have voted the ultra-right-wing People's Party into the ruling majority. Since the cartoon controversy, support for this anti-Muslim party has grown to almost 20%.
Over the last few weeks, there has been a crisis in Denmark involving Danish people of Danish stock and Muslims. Do you think this crisis is going to make things better or worse?
Being where I am, I have to be optimistic.
You have to be, but what are you?
I'm scared. I think there are a lot of Muslims that are afraid that they could be turned into scapegoats And people would say that the reason that the world hates us is because you people are telling bad stories of Denmark. We have to take the ball away from the extreme groups in Denmark and put it in the middle where the rest of us are.
But that middle is fast disappearing into fantasies of fear. Many Muslims are afraid of being victimized. Many Danes are afraid their culture is under siege. Already, people with foreign values are converging on Denmark's national symbols. So what to do? If you ask those Danes responsible for the country's traditional image of civility and manners, a Dane like former foreign minister and newspaper editor Uffe Ellemann, he'll tell you that a little self-censorship is not always a bad thing.
When you use the freedom of speech to make jokes of other people's religions, and you do it with the single purpose of demonstrating that you have the right to do so, then you are undermining the freedom of speech, as I see it.
Is that what you think the newspaper was doing? Do you think they were deliberately provoking just to show that they had a right to do it?
Yes, and I reacted very strongly because Muslims in Denmark, well, that's a minority. And you don't treat a minority that way. You don't stamp on other people's religious feelings. That's bad taste.
Freedom of speech versus religious sensitivities, conflicting forces which are doing battle everywhere. The Danes, in their picture-perfect world, may have thought they were immune. Now, they know better.